Lost, Chapter 6. By Monday morning, Nikki dreaded going to school so much she was almost sick. I don't want to have to see Andy or Tina ever again, she cried to herself as she walked down the road. Or Ben, for that matter. Who knows what he thinks of me? Tears ran down her cheeks. I hate Andy. I will never go to a party again. But more important, my parents must never find out I went. They can never know. She was determined. She heard a car pulled up behind her. Trembling, she turned her head, then relaxed a little when she saw it was Dustin. Why don't I feel threatened by him? She wondered. Maybe I should. After all, Daddy says that's all a boy wants. But even as Dustin stopped, she couldn't help but smile. Will you let me give you a ride today? He asked kindly. I suppose. She smiled as she slipped into his car. As she buckled in, she felt herself tremble again, thinking about the consequences she would face if her father found out what she was doing. Dustin smiled at her. You look tired. He watched her closely. Tired was an understatement. She looked as though she were about to collapse, and as though she had been crying, but he wasn't going to say that. A little, Nikki admitted. I just haven't slept well the last few nights. Worried about finals, I guess. She tried to smile. I remember when Mom was homeschooling me last year. I was so worried that I was going to fail and not be able to go to college. He laughed. Then, what a surprise, when I told Mom and Dad I wasn't going to college the next year, but was going to work instead. It surprised me as well, but I just felt it was right somehow. Nikki smiled as she settled back in the seat. She liked listening to him talk. It made her feel calm and helped her forget her troubles. Tell me about your family. Are you an only child? Dustin smiled. Nope. There are 7 others besides me. I'm the oldest. Then there is Sarah. She's about 17. Then Caden, he's 12. Olivia's 10. Josh, Jason, and Joy are 3, and Julia just turned 1. He looked at her. What about you? You have any siblings? Nikki felt her stomach knot. Nope, just me. She tried to smile. Mom and Dad wanted more, but after me, Mom miscarried. They never tried again. It was really hard on her. She flushed, wondering why she had said all that. It wasn't his business. Dustin looked away. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. No, it's okay, she smiled. Really, you had no way of knowing. Dustin pulled the car to a stop. I'll see you after school if I can. He smiled, and somehow his smile touched a small place in her heart. Thanks. Nikki smiled back. I think I would like that. Nikki hurried into the school, hoping Andy wouldn't be there, but much to her dismay, he was there, waiting for her as she walked in the door. Angrily, he gripped her arm. I want you to go out with me this weekend, he hissed, and don't you dare breathe a word about the other night. I mean it, Nikki. Nikki trembled as she glanced at him, hating the feel of his hand on her arm. Sorry, Andy, but I'm honestly busy this weekend. Maybe some other time. Before she finished, the bell rang. To her surprise, he let her pull away, and she hurried quickly down the hallway to class. Saved by the bell, she muttered as she pushed open the classroom door. As soon as school was over that afternoon, she was again approached by Andy. When she saw he was coming, she shot a quick look around and relaxed a little as she saw Tina and some of the other girls standing around the lockers. You will go out with me sometime soon, he growled in her ear, or I'll make sure you are very, very sorry. He stepped closer to her as if trying to make other people think something was going on between them. Nikki trembled as she stepped back. I don't know what you mean, Andy. I have to go. Her stomach knotted as she hurried out the door. She practically ran down the street, fear gripping her. What if he tried to catch her on the way home? What would she do? What could she do? Her mind filled with dread as she hurried toward home. Tears ran down her cheeks. I don't know what to do, she whispered to herself. I'm scared, but I don't know what to do. Please, God, if you really are real, help me, she cried. She remembered being small and her babysitter holding her close and telling her stories about God. She remembered the first time her father found out about it. He had forbidden the babysitter to ever come back and had told Nikki that those were all fake stories, fairy tales that had nothing to do with real life. He had told her that God was not real and that anyone who went to church or believed in God was dangerous. She had only allowed herself to think of those stories and wonder if they were real once in a great while, fearing her father would find out that she was doubting his word. She never asked about it, but there was a small wonder in her mind if God was really real. But if he was, she was sure he didn't care about her and would never love her. Her father told her more than once she was unlovable. No one could possibly ever care for her. Once again, lost in thought, she jumped as the car pulled up behind her. Fear gripping her, she started to run. "Nicky!" called the driver. Nicky turned quickly, then smiled. She felt her whole body relax. It was Dustin. She felt sure he would protect her from Andy. But why did she feel that way? She couldn't answer that question, even to herself. She just knew she felt safe with him. Should she, or should she feel scared? What if he was only out to hurt her? Quickly she pushed all those thoughts away. He was just being nice. Dustin smiled as he stopped. "Can I give you a lift home?" Nicky shuddered. "I suppose you can, at least a little ways." Dustin reached over and pushed open the door. "I'd be glad to." His eyes sparkled with his teasing. "I hope you don't think it's too weird, me offering you rides, that is. I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. I know we don't hardly even know each other, but He stopped. Nicky smiled. "It's not too weird. I like the rides. Thank you for the offer." She flushed. Why did she suddenly feel so tongue-tied? She felt her pulse flutter. Dustin glanced over at her as he drove to the corner. "I'm glad you like them. I had hoped—" He stopped. Nicky looked at him quickly. What was he going to say? Dustin flushed. "I hoped you'd like them as much as I did," he finally said. His heart cramped. He wanted to say so much more. He wanted to know if this was God's will. He wanted to know if she was the one God had for him. He wanted to ask her out and have her say she would be delighted, but he hardly knew her. Maybe it would be better if he waited a while. Nicky smiled weakly. "I have enjoyed them." Even as she spoke, her stomach cramped. She could tell by his face he wanted to say more. Her heart flip-flopped. Did he have feelings for her? Was he going to ask her out? Silently, she rebuked the feelings and thoughts. "I can't go out with him. Daddy doesn't let me go out with anyone. And even if he did, he wouldn't let me go out with someone who is almost a complete stranger. Besides that, I don't know that I would want to get involved with a boy. Daddy was right. All they want to do is hurt me." Nicky trembled as she thought about last Friday night. Dustin pulled the car to a stop. The silence on the short ride was almost deafening. It seemed both had had so much to say and were both afraid to speak. Nervously, Dustin cleared his throat. "Nicky," he almost whispered, in spite of his intentions to not be nervous. "Nicky, I wanted to ask you something." Nicky trembled as she looked into his eyes. "Yes?" She tried to keep her voice steady, though she could feel her whole body shaking. What horrible thing was he going to ask her? Dustin looked away, then back at her. "Nicky, I just wanted to, Dustin stopped, too scared to go on. What if she said no? His heart turned over. Her rejection would be worse than not asking at all. If she said no, he would take that as a sign that they were not meant to be together, and he didn't want to lose her. Again, he took a deep breath, determined to ask her out, but he just couldn't force out the words. "Will you wait for me in the morning if I'm not here waiting for you?" he finally asked. Nicky trembled. "I'll try. It'll depend on the time." Nicky's stomach tightened. She had to get home, or she would be in trouble for being late again. Slowly, she slid out of the car. "I'll see you tomorrow, Dustin." She forced a timid smile. "I need to get home now." Dustin smiled. "Tomorrow." As soon as she was gone, he wanted to kick himself. "Dustin, why didn't you ask her?" he rebuked himself. "I will tomorrow," he promised himself as he drove home. "I have to, before more feelings develop." He sighed. "Help me, God," he pleaded. "I need your strength. I need you to show me what to do."